Hello and welcome to this episode of Vagina Truth Bomb, the podcast. It's exciting. So I'm Amy Louise Connor, your host, and I'm a little bit giddy. You can probably hear it in my voice because I haven't recorded an episode for absolutely ages, and I'm excited to be back. Yay! So it's currently the beginning of October. And the last episode went out mid-August, so there's been quite a long gap between episodes. And that's because there's been quite a lot going on for me, and I have given myself the grace and permission to have space to process everything that's been happening. So overall, I've come to the realisation at the grand age of 38 that summer is not my season when it comes to productivity and, creating anything of value, because I just struggle so much with summer. I don't know if anyone else can relate to this or whether there's a particular season that you really struggle with. A friend of mine's just popped into my head actually because she really struggles with winter and she literally just goes into hibernation. And yeah, but for me, summer is the hard month. It's too hot for me. When I get hot, I just can't function. I just want to sleep and mill around. And the whole tone and pace of summer, I find that children are off school, so my nibblings are off school and I want to spend time with them. I don't want to be stuck to a schedule because it's light all the time. Oh, sorry, my fuse just went in my light and it was quite dramatic. So there we go. I'm sat in the dark now. Yeah. So what was I saying? Yeah, my nibblings are off. I want to spend time with them. I don't want to be on a schedule. I get too hot. It's light all the time. My body's confused with what time of day it is. Yeah, and productivity wise, I'm just rubbish. So that's one of the reasons I've not been my productive self. And the second reason is my dog, Monty. So Monty, my cockapoo, has, bless him, he snapped his cruciate ligament in his knee. So he's had this really big operation. He's got some metal on his knee now, so he's not been able to do much. I think he's 3 weeks post-op now, and he's getting better every day, bless him. But he was waiting a long while for his operation. He had this specialist vet who came to do this really clever surgery for him, and yeah, that just really has changed the energy of the house because we've had a bit of a rubbish time with health. So my husband, what did he do? He didn't snap it. He tore his Achilles tendon. I think that was the end of April or the beginning of April, and he's literally just getting to the point where he can run again. And then obviously Monty's done this, so we've not been able to get out as much as we would like and do the walks that we'd like to do and all that kind of thing. So the kind of energy in the house has been different as well. And then the other big thing that's happened is I've made space for some more healing, and I've been doing some really, really fab work. And I'm going to do another episode to talk about this because it's so interesting. I find this I find what I've experienced in my own body and learnt from my own body really, really interesting and exciting. And I know that those of you who listen to this podcast, I know some of you personally, and I know you'd be really interesting to hear as well, because the body's just amazing, isn't it? But yeah, I'm definitely going to be sharing more about that in a separate episode. But what I want to talk about today ties in with it really beautifully, actually, because I want to talk about emotions. So I talked previously about the 5 categories that I work with. So a body, emotions, environment, blueprints, and flappy bits. Those are the 5 categories that I've created to explain the work that I do and why I do it. And in my last episode, I talked about the body and how, these are very general episodes, because obviously future episodes we're going to be going into it in a lot more detail. But yeah, in this one, I just want to talk about emotions because they are so important. And when it comes to our health and well-being, especially our physical health, our emotions are hugely, hugely overlooked, especially by, the Western medical model, which is the model that a lot of us have been brought up with and what we know as like healthcare. So if I asked you to describe an emotion, chances are you're going to be able to do that. You don't definitely need a definition of an emotion, but I've pulled one out of Google anyway because I just think it's handy to have a definition, and I've gone with Collins Dictionary's definition, and that is that an emotion is a feeling such as happiness, love, fear, anger, or hatred, which can be caused by the situation you are in or the people you are with. And I really liked this definition because it's really simple. We all know that happiness, love, fear, anger, etc., that they're all emotions. And I really liked how it brought in the environment piece of it as well. So going back to my 5 categories, like the environment of the situation that you are in or the people that you are with, or both, having an impact, causing certain emotions. And that's a really big piece, because once we understand that, or can identify when we're in certain situations or with certain people, individual emotions may be coming up for us, then that's a big step for us to be taking, to understand ourselves and to be able to support ourselves better. So the first truth bomb drop I want to make, and I was just thinking earlier that I need to make a little sound effect up for when I'm dropping a truth bomb. Boom. I need to work on that. I think that's a work in progress. But if you've got any ideas, let me know. Send me a message. That could be fun. But yeah, so the first truth bomb drop I want to make is that every single emotion is equally valid. So every emotion that you experience is valid, and all emotions are equally valid. And I want to make that point because in our society, we have this social conditioning that teaches us to suppress quote unquote unpleasant emotions. And if we think of emotions such as shame and grief and guilt and anger and rage, we don't know how to deal with them. We don't know how to deal with them ourselves as the individual experiencing the emotion. And for somebody who is, witnessing somebody expressing that emotion, we don't know how to handle it. And we really struggle as a human race, especially in the Western world, to be vulnerable with each other. And to be vulnerable, I mean to express our emotions as we feel them, and to support one another, or to accept each other for the emotions that we feel. And some examples around this are, if you have somebody who is talking negatively about themselves or has experienced a lot of grief, like they maybe suffered a bereavement, we often have that conversation with ourselves or each other of, what do we say? Oh, it was really awkward, I didn't know what to say. Or, even worse, and I think we've all done this, is you see somebody, you come across somebody who you know is having a hard time for whatever reason. It could be a bereavement, it could be, they've lost their job, or, we know that this person's in a bad place, experiencing something really difficult. And what rolls off the tongue? Oh, hello, how are you? How are you doing? Are you okay? And like instantly you're just cringing, thinking, oh my God, why have I asked that question? Why did I say that? They're clearly not okay. And, that awkwardness that we have about, what do we say to this person? How do I talk to them? How can I support them? And because we don't know what to say, we end up, a lot of the time, and I'm generalizing here, I know I am, not saying anything. And then on the other side of that, when we are maybe in a place where we're not okay, or we're feeling a bit pants and things aren't going well for us, when we meet people and they say, how are you? Are you okay? Like, how things are with you? We just automatically, without thinking, go, yeah, I'm fine, thank you. Oh, I'm really well. Yeah, I'm okay. Because we don't have that space, that vulnerability between ourselves in the society that we live in to express how we're really feeling, because we've been conditioned to suppress these icky, unpleasant emotions. And we can see this, and I just want to, before I continue any further, this is kind of a disclaimer for every single podcast that I do and every conversation that I have. When I talk about these things, I'm not judging anybody. This is coming from a really deep place of love, because everything that I'm going to talk about in this episode, all the examples that I'm going to give, I'm guilty of myself. Society's guilty of, and it's not about blaming each other or individuals, or it's about acknowledging where the changes need to take place, because there's no, this is a societal thing. Like I said, it's like societal conditioning, and we can't correct that through, it's not an easy process to do, is what I'm saying. So if I'm saying something in this podcast and you're like, oh my God, I've done that, or oh my God, yeah, that makes sense, why am I doing that? Don't have any judgment on yourself or whoever else is doing this, because all of these things come from a place of love that I'm about to talk about. So going back to societal conditioning, like to suppress certain emotions, if we look at how we parent, and when I say parent, I mean parents talking to children, aunties, this is me, like what I say and have said to children, like education system, like the whole thing. So when I'm talking about like parenting, I mean the whole picture, like everybody involved in the village, So when our children show an unpleasant emotion, when young children get angry or enraged, we tell them to change their behaviour, or we tell them they're being naughty, and we give them a consequence. And a lot of the time it's a negative consequence. You've expressed anger, so this is going to happen. And what happens? From a really young age, we are learning that it is naughty to be angry. Even if we've got a really genuine reason to feel anger, even if our emotions are valid, we are taught that these negative emotions need to be suppressed, they're not socially acceptable, and we can't express them. Big girls don't cry. Boys don't cry. It's not nice to be angry. And I'm not saying, that we should let children go around hitting and kicking and throwing things at each other, but it's about not acknowledging that emotion for what it is and trying to suppress it. So we start this at a really young age of being told that, good girls, good boys, nice people, kind people don't get angry, they don't get enraged, they don't feel, it's not sociable to feel grief. All of these, all of these emotions need to be hidden. So that's one piece of it. And what I want to remind you is that, going back to the truth bomb that I dropped, like, every emotion you experience is valid, and all emotions are equally valid. So if you have anger over something, that's okay. If you're grieving, that's okay. If you're grieving 10, 20, 30 years later, that's okay. And when you allow yourself permission to feel these emotions and get help, or, find a way to express these emotions in a really loving and safe way, then we start to unlock deeper healing. On a personal level, anger, my sacred anger for having to have lost my womb to endometriosis, and for all the women out there who are being told that they are incurable, that there's no known causes, there's no known cures, that hysterectomy is, an option for them in their healing journey to try and get relief from this incurable disease. That makes me really, really chuffing angry. Really angry. And that's just one piece of women's health that gets me really angry. Like, I could do a whole other podcast episode on what makes me angry. And I call this my sacred anger, because I don't want this anger to go away. This anger is what fuels me to do what I do, to show up and talk about the things that I talk about, and be a light for the women that need me. For those women out there who've been told that they're incurable, that they need to have their womb removed. If I'm not, if this sacred anger isn't fueling me, if I'm not channeling this anger, I don't show up and I don't do these things, and I'm not able to help people. But it took me a long time to be able to work with this anger in a productive way. And I actually got told quite a lot, actually, that, I shouldn't be angry. And I've had conversations with other women who work in women's health who have told me that my anger is a waste of energy. Why are you angry? It's just wasting your energy. Why are you letting that emotion? And it's that belief that my anger cannot be my passion. That because it's anger, because it's this ugly emotion that has this this negativity around it, if I was letting my joy and my love and my happiness fuel my business, no one would question that. But it's my anger, and I've had, it blows me away. Like, I've had women who work in, the same arena as me telling me that I need to suppress and hide, or get rid of my anger. And I don't agree with that. It's part of me. I still carry the grief of losing my womb. And again, it took me a really long time to realise that I was actually grieving my womb. And an even longer time to actually allow myself to grieve the loss of my womb, the loss of my cycle, the loss of my children. It took me a really long time for that to happen. And once I allow it to happen and I, release those emotions and let them be expressed, things get better. But it's not sexy. It's not an attractive, sexy process to go through, but it is necessary. It's really necessary. And yeah, so I want you to think about the emotions that you're maybe not expressing because they're being told, you're being told consciously, subconsciously, that it's not socially acceptable to do so. And I also want to highlight that, we're also told to suppress emotions such as pride and self-celebration and self-pride and self-achievement, and these emotions where we're celebrating ourselves and we're bragging a bit because we've done something really amazing. Again, we can be told to suppress these because it's seen as a little bit vulgar, to a bit cocky, a bit vulgar, a bit distasteful to be bragging about how amazing you are. And so again, we can be conditioned to not celebrate ourselves when we've achieved something that we're really proud of. And another thing that can be suppressed as well is excitement. So I get excited about a lot of things. I get, especially like with my nibblings, I get really, really giddy and excited about silly little things. Like the smallest little thing gets me really excited because I love spending time with them. I love being around them, and I get excited. We've booked to go and see Father Christmas on Christmas Eve, and I'm excited about that. Like, we're going to the cinema in half term to see the Paw Patrol movie, and I'm really excited about that. I'm really excited to take them and have that experience with them, and I will get them all excited, and I will, really get into the excitement of being with them, and I'll be a bit childish, and I'll be a bit immature, and I'll wind them up. And again, because I'm an adult behaving in that way, I can be judged by other adults, or I can get silly looks, or, why are you excited about that? And again, there's all these different examples. It's different for different people, different situations, where, you might get really excited about, a certain TV show you're going to watch on an evening and be really excited about it, and no one else around you is sharing that excitement and that energy about, I don't know, if you're a Strictly Come Dancing fan or whatever it is. We can get kind of judged by what excites us, and as adults we can be seen and labelled as childish or immature. I get excited by bright clothing, and there's all sorts of different things that we can get judged by, with our emotions, and in essence having them suppressed. So just be wary of that, because as I said, once you're aware of your emotions, once you're trying to view them all as valid, treat them all as valid, and give them the space and the love and attention that they need, then that whole space of health and wellness begins to grow and become more of your existence. Okay, so the second truth bomb I want to drop this episode is, and this may be something that you've heard of before, it may not be, it might be a completely new concept to you, but it's that you hold your emotions in your body. And if you think about this for a moment, certain emotions correlate with certain body sensations. So for example, shaking, nausea can be, if you shake it, you can shake with excitement, you can feel a bit sick with excitement, you can have like butterflies in your tummy. You can also have those same responses for being fearful or nervous. If you're somebody who doesn't like public speaking and you've got to go and give a talk, or you're going to a job interview, or you're going to a concert for somebody that you're really excited to see and you've got that excitement, you can have that like jittery tummy, shaking a little bit, feeling a bit jittery. Nervous poos and wheeze is a really big one as well. Feeling like you need to go to the toilet a lot because you're either nervous or excited or fearful of something. So there's an example of how emotions can react with your body. And the truth is that your body can hold on to trauma, stress, emotions and pain for a long time. And it's actually easier to unlock physical pain, like untrap physical pain from your body, than it is to unlock trauma and emotions. But it's possible. It's definitely possible. And a lot of people aren't acknowledging this. When it comes to challenging chronic pain conditions, if you're living with an autoimmune condition, a chronic pain, if you're in a place where your quality of life is being impacted by your health, then the chances are you have emotions and trauma trapped within your body. Yeah, if you're not aware of this, you're not going to be doing the work that you need to be doing. You're not going to be treating your body the way that you need to treat it in order to unlock it. And when we talk about detoxification, and when I talked in previous episodes about the lymphatic system and getting waste out of the body, getting toxins out of the body, trapped emotions and trapped traumas are part of what needs to be coming out. They're part of that waste. They're part of the toxins that need to come out of the body. So we can unlock these sensations of, these emotions and traumas through working really intentionally with the body, which is how I work. And they can be unlocked through increasing your senses of proprioception and interoception. And these can be done by self-touch, massage, self-touch practices, getting more embodied, getting more aware of your body and what she's trying to tell you. And it can also be activated through activating your lymphatic system, because as I said, part of the toxins that you need to release are these emotions as well as physical. So activating your lymphatic system will really, really help you with this. Going back to talking about the hierarchy of healing, and going to the brain that is at the top. So I've already said, if you remember, at the top there is brain, lymphatics and gut. I've already said that working with the lymphatic system is a really wonderful way of helping your body release trapped emotions. If you think about the brain for a moment and the nervous system and your mind, how you feel about yourself, how you feel about your body, how you feel about your life choices has a significant impact on your health and on your well-being. So, looking at how we talk about ourselves, how we talk to ourselves, how we treat our bodies, how we feel about our bodies, how we talk about our bodies, how we talk about our life choices, how we describe ourselves. If you are resenting yourself, and again, this is something I've learned from personal experience, if you're resenting yourself for a specific part of your body or your bodily function, if your periods are painful and unpleasant for you and you're resenting them because they're causing you so much grief and pain and discomfort, then you are gonna, nothing's gonna thrive from that place of being resented. If you're talking negatively about your period, about your womb, about, the whole process, and you're not loving yourself and your womb and your cycle, then it's never going to thrive. Like anything, if it's getting constant resentment, constant negativity, you're not giving it the environment that it needs to grow and thrive. So how we think about ourselves and how we feel about ourselves and within our emotions in general gets us right to the top of that hierarchy of healing with the brain. And when we look at the nervous system, the brain is linked to survival. It wants to keep us alive. So that means it's automatically going to be looking for things that are causing us stress, worry, anger, or fear. Like these negative emotions are going to be tuned in quicker by the nervous system than our feelings of happiness and joy and love and all like the more positive emotions. So we have this innate drive within us to survive, and to survive we need to be looking for the things that are going to cause us negativity rather than positivity. And we talk a lot about triggers in the coaching world, and triggers are cues that signal to our brain that we are in danger. So like I just said, our brain is based on survival, so it's linking into these negativities, to these triggers all the time. And as I said, there's a lot of talk about triggers in the world of coaching and health and well-being. But the opposite to triggers is glimmers. And glimmers are cues that signal safety and an allowance to unwind. So through working with the brain, through working with the nervous system and supporting the nervous system, like I talked about in my previous episode about the body, and again I'm going to be talking more about this, by working with the nervous system to support it to be looking for the glimmers more than the triggers, then we're going to be in this space where we can handle emotions better. Okay, I hope that makes sense. And I just want to really briefly finish this episode by saying that our emotions can also be drivers for specific conditions. So these are known as metaphysical drivers of specific conditions. So if you have a emotion that you're holding on to, going back to how you think about yourself, how you feel about, yourself, your life choices, your body, all of these things about you, how you feel, the environment, the emotional environment you're giving yourself can be a trigger or a driver for specific conditions. So it could be that you are experiencing a condition that is impacting your health, and it's been driven by, either fully or partially, by a thought or a belief or an emotion that you have trapped in your body about yourself. And I'm going to be talking, I know this, I've covered a lot in this episode, but if we think of trauma, so I'm going to share a quote here from Dr. Gabor Mate, who is an absolute, he's such a lovely energy in the world of trauma. And if you want to know more about trauma and how it impacts the body, I strongly suggest that you look him up. I'll put the links in the show notes, but you can go on YouTube or wherever you're listening to your podcasts, type him in, and he's been on loads of podcasts, he's written loads of books, he's such an interesting person. But I just want to share with you that his definition of trauma, his explanation of trauma. So the first thing he says is that trauma is from the Greek word for wound, and that trauma is a psychic wound that leaves a scar. It leaves an imprint on your nervous system, in your body, in your psyche, and then shows up in multiple ways that are not helpful to you later on. Okay? And he also describes trauma as not being what happens to you, but what happens inside you as a result of what has happened to you. Trauma is that scarring that makes you less flexible, more rigid, less feeling, and more defended. And I'm going to go on to talk about trauma in future episodes, but I really want you to start to understand that trauma gets trapped within you and shows up as emotions that aren't serving you. So, let's take a deep breath. Okay, so we've covered quite a lot in this episode. We've gone really deep into emotions and how they impact us. So just to give a really quick overview. Firstly, having that understanding that every single emotion you experience is valid and that all emotions are equally valid. And being aware, having that awareness that that is the case, yet society has conditioned us to suppress, hide, trap certain unpleasant emotions, or even pleasant emotions, as we talked about, the celebrating ourselves and stuff. So just to be mindful of where emotions, which emotions you are potentially not allowing yourself to experience fully. Secondly, the understanding that you hold your emotions in your body and that how we think and feel about ourselves is significantly important. And how we can untrap and release these emotions through working the body in a way that we know how to talk to her. Going back to what I was talking about in my previous episode about the body being an ecosystem, it being very, very intelligent, and understanding how to work with her in a respectful way in order to get the results that we need with our own healing. And finally, understanding that there are emotional drivers for specific conditions, and that understanding that trauma gets trapped in the body. And like Gabor's given a really good example there of it being like scar tissue. And if you've got any scar tissue, you know that it's rigid, it's unflexible, it doesn't have any feeling, unless you've done work on it. It's very tight and can be just restricted and unflexible, and that's how trauma gets trapped in the body. And that we need to be looking at all of this to ensure that we are addressing healing in a full, meaningful and sustainable way. So we're coming to the end of the episode now, and I hope you've taken something away from this. I hope you've learned something, or maybe embedded a bit more the understanding of how just the significance of our emotions. And if anything I have shared resonates with you, or if you've got any questions, or if you've got anything that you would like to share from this episode, I would absolutely love for you to hear from you. So all of the ways that you can connect with me will be in the show notes. And it's been a big episode, hasn't it? And I actually think I'm gonna write some journaling prompts for you. I'm going to go away, I'm going to digest what I've shared with you all, and I will create some journaling prompts that I will share with you in the show notes and in my community. Okay, so thank you so much for spending this time with me today. Absolutely loved recording this episode. It's so lovely to be back and sending you lots and lots of love. And I want you to remember that you are whole and complete exactly as you are. You are amazing. And I look forward to catching you in the next episode. Have a wonderful day. Thank you for listening to this episode of Vagina Truth Bomb, the podcast. It is a real honour to have you listening. I would love to hear your thoughts, feelings and takeaways from this episode, and you can share them with me via the VTB community, which is accessible through my website, vaginatruthbomb.com. You can also share them via social media platforms, making sure that you tag me so that we can connect. All of my social media links are in my show notes. I would really love and appreciate it if you could help me in growing my audience by sharing this podcast with others who you think it will interest, or adding a screenshot to your stories and tagging me so I can send you some love back. Also, if you subscribe, follow and review the podcast on the platform you're listening to, this will be a huge help too. Have a beautiful day, and I will catch you in the next episode. Much love, Amy.